What's up, everybody? Randy here. Chris will be joining in a second. Just waiting for him to hop on. So we're going to get started in a couple minutes. I don't know how many people are going to join. You know how social media is with links now. I tried to get out the word as much as I could. So hopefully we'll have a pretty good viewership. Like I said, just waiting for Chris to join. If you have questions, start sending them in the chat, in the comments, so we can queue them up and get going. Finchinator, I hope you're having a great Friday as well. Same to all of you. Just waiting for Chris to join us. If you have questions right now, start putting them in the chat in the comments. We see them on here. We record on StreamYard. So it's not exactly through YouTube. We just connect our account to there. So we see all the comments. Hope everybody's having a good time. I hope that we can get these games in this weekend, even though the starting pitching matchups don't look all that great for the Yankees, if we're being totally honest here. Carlos Rodon is one of the pitchers, but I don't know if that makes anybody feel good or better about that situation. We shall see. So yeah, we're just gonna wait a minute or two until we get some questions. Chris is here with his athletic sweatshirt.
I'm here. I made it.
You made it. Thank you. So waiting for questions to queue in and for people to join us. I was mentioning, you know how social media is with the links. So I don't know if anybody actually saw the link or not, but tried to get the word out as much as we could. So you're obviously not at the stadium yet. We can start the conversation before we get some questions in. Do you think we're going to see Yankee games this weekend with the weather?
I have zero clue. I'm asked this question a lot because I guess some people think I am a meteorologist, but
obviously,
I'm a sports journalist. I only know what people know by looking at their iPhones or weather.com. Right now, I think pretty sure it's about to rain any second now.
Yeah, I was just outside. It was drizzling, but it wasn't doing anything crazy. So if it stays like this, it shouldn't be a problem. And
what I think because I have a partner at the Athletic, Brendan Cuddy. I think last year Brendan and I don't go to every game together. We try to like have a set schedule of like how we divvy up the games, because if we went to 162 games, we would drive ourselves crazy. But last year, I think every single rain delay that the Yankees had, like I was at, and Brendan was home.
Well, maybe it'll flip flop this year.
So hopefully the luck changes this year.
All right. We have some questions coming in. We'll start with Chris M, just so we can get this out of the way. He says or asks, I thought y'all were behind a paywall. We are. We did go to Patreon. We did that last September. We were not, when we were with Pitcherless, we were not making as much money for the amount of episodes and content we were putting out there. So we went behind a paywall for Patreon. So yes, that is true. But when we do things like this, that'd be kind of ridiculous to gatekeeping paywall, doing stuff like this. And we want to get people interested in what we do and what we're about. So whenever we do this, it will always be open. We're definitely not doing paywalls and gatekeeping YouTube live streams. We're not trying to be crazy about it. It's just for the podcast, we decided to go in that direction. So yes, that is true. But when we do things like this, we're trying to get the word out, but also just trying to interact with as many people as possible and give people a chance to really talk to Chris, because he has the insight, because he's there every day and with the team every day. So that's the thought process behind that. And if you want to join the Patreon, you get more of this, and we would appreciate it. But yeah, that's how we're approaching it. So, all right. Adam, did you see any Schmidt highlights from Somerset? and how much stock do you put into his double A performance?
I did not see any highlights of Somerset. We Randy and I spoke about this on yesterday's episode of just about like the state of the rotation, but um, the Yankees really need Clark to step in and hit the ground running as soon as possible because outside of Max Fried, the rotation has been a disaster. I'm curious to see how the rotation looks this weekend. The Giants' offense isn't great so far. They have a couple of guys performing well, but as a whole, uh, they're below average. So interested to see how Stroman, Warren, and Rodon look this weekend. But I did not see any highlights. I don't really put much stock into what happens on rehab assignments. I mean, it's obviously nice that um, he's performed well in both of his rehab starts, but you know, it's kind of like spring training in a way. Like you shouldn't be putting much stock into the stats that you see happening in front of you. We'll have to see what he looks like on the major league level. But if Clark can pitch at the same level he was at last season before his lat strain, that would be a huge boost for the Yankees because they do really need another starting pitcher.
All right, so I know we've talked a lot about him on the podcast, but since we're here, I think it's probably helpful for people to have a quick discussion about Clark Schmidt. Um, can you let the viewers know what the Yankees think about him, what the organization sees in him, where they think he can go, and tell us why Clark Schmidt is so important to this rotation, not just because he's better than whatever Carlos Carrasco is now or Marcus Stroman, the crafty righty. Like he's clearly better than them. But beyond that, just for the rotation in general, why is Clark Schmidt so important to the Yankees, and why do the Yankees view him as an important piece?
Well, they think Clark can be a top of the line starter. If we remember, he made his major league debut coming out of the bullpen a couple years ago, and he's really taken to the analytics staff that the Yankees have. They obviously have a huge pitching department. It's not just Matt Blake and Preston Claiborne, who's now the assistant pitching coach. Like they have a lot of people behind the scenes who are helping the pitchers, and Clark is one of those guys. You know, not everybody's analytical. Clark is very analytical. He likes the numbers. He wasn't always this way. I remember having a conversation with Clark last year in Houston at the start of the season, just about like what he did the previous offseason, so going into the 2024 season. And he was telling me just about how the analytics staff broke down a lot of the numbers that he had in the previous season and what he could improve upon. The cutter was one of those things. He struggled like Will Warren did, getting left-handed hitters out, and they introduced this cutter to him, and it's now become the pitch he throws the most. It's just crazy that a pitcher can learn a pitch kind of like on the fly, and it becomes one of their top used pitches. It's like the same thing for Rodon. Rodon's been using his changeup more often this year. He just learned how to throw his changeup this past during the season, and he implemented it during the season. But Clark is one of those guys who really loves the numbers. Very similar to Garrett in that way. He's extremely smart when it comes to like the ins and outs of pitching. Whereas like someone, I'm not saying he's dumb, but Max Fried is not analytical. Like Max was telling me that he's more old school. He likes, feeling out the game of how it's developing in front of him, and he's not really concerned about like numbers per se. So I always just think it's really interesting how different guys approach how they play. Judge is old school. He doesn't care about analytics. And most hitters I've found are not really analytical. Like Volpe's not analytical. Wells is analytical. So it's just very interesting how like guy to guy it changes like how they approach the game in front of them.
Keith Progobin. I'm sorry if I mispronounce anybody's name. It's not intentional. I'm trying my best. How does the rotation play out when Heel and Schmidt return?
Well, Heel, I have no clue. I mean, that's still several months away. Who knows who's available? Who knows who's hurt?
Yeah,
Um,
I want to say something about Heel for everybody that's watching. That I don't think we can underestimate how bad of an injury Heel sustained. Like, for whatever reason, I know this happens across Major League Baseball, and the Yankees aren't the only team that's had pitchers that have like lat strain injuries. But this is like becoming a common injury that's popping up with a bunch of Yankees pitchers, and it's like goes back to Severino, and we saw how it ended up with Severino. It basically ruined Clark Schmidt's season last year. Clark Schmidt was fantastic until he got hurt, and then he basically played catch up the entire time. And even when he got to the playoffs, he wasn't like his best self. Um, I would not put any expectations on Luis Heel. I know that like there's a 3-month timeline and all of those things, but there could be a setback. He might not be the same pitcher for the rest of the year. So I just want to like lower expectations for Heel just because of the nature of the injury. Like that is not a good injury that he sustained. So I just wanted to put that out there before you got going.
yeah, I mean, it's definitely an important point to make. There's no guarantees that he's going to be back as soon as early June. Literally everything has to go perfectly for Heel to return on the timeline. And as you said, like lat strains can be very tricky. So it would not be a surprise if there was a setback or it takes a little bit longer. So I have no clue what the rotation is going to look like if and when he returns. Um, I'm not saying that he's going to be out for the season or they think he's going to be out, but like lat strains are very serious injuries, especially for pitchers. As for when Clark comes back, he because he had his um, rehab assignment last night, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, so he can slot into Carrasco's spot in the rotation. S- I'm I'm gonna guess that, and I have no idea, but we'll probably learn in a few hours when um, Aaron Boone speaks with us. But I'm gonna guess that Clark is going to take Carrasco's spot. Like I understand the need for depth, and it's one of the reasons why Carrasco made the team out of spring training. I know it was out of necessity, but like they couldn't lose him just because they were so short on bodies. But at some point, it's like you have to watch what's in front of you, and he just doesn't have it. So
No.
I would not be surprised if Carrasco gets DFA'd in the coming days, and Schmidt slides into um, Carrasco's spot in the rotation. Now, if they decide that it's beneficial for them to keep Carrasco, really the only other option is to send Will Warren back down to AAA. He has options, so like they wouldn't lose him. But I don't know about just keeping depth for depth because that's
Yeah,
what you're doing with Carlos.
and I think with a guy like Carlos Carrasco, if he gets released, I don't think somebody's rushing to pick him up. So he might just be hanging out like Adam Ottavino. Maybe they'll like hang out at the bar until they both get a call from the Yankees to come back or something if it's necessary. But I don't think like Carlos Carrasco will be unavailable if they get rid of him. That might be factoring into this decision as well, if he even comes back at all. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast. He looks cooked. Like he looks like I don't want to like talk bad about Carlos Carrasco. I think he's been a fantastic pitcher over his career, but like at this stage, it's just like very difficult to see the value in him compared to a Will Warren, who also has his own concerns. But if you had to get rid of one guy, I think it would be Carrasco at this point, especially if Clark is lined up to take his spot.
Yeah, and you do make a good point, especially like now that we're in the season. Sometimes guys who get DFA'd go unclaimed on waivers just because teams have their rotation set or their roster set. So it wouldn't be a surprise if he did clear waivers, and then at that point it's on Carlos to either accept a AAA assignment or elect free agency. I mean, I have no idea what he might be thinking if that were to happen, but it is a possibility that he goes unclaimed and the Yankees can still keep him in their organization if Carlos does want to head on the bus to Scranton.
Yeah, and maybe the weather factors into some of it, but I mean, I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. Justin Sanchez, it was good, my guys. Thanks for setting this up. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Finchinator again, go to beat reporter activities during a rain delay.
Number one is cry. Number two is curse. Number three is want to break your computer for needing to sit through the rain delay. I think what was it, 22? I think it was 22. But there was a really long rain delay during the playoffs. Do you remember that? Was it? It
Yeah.
was the Cleveland.
Yeah.
It was atrocious.
Horrible.
And they ended up canceling the game
Right.
when it was at Yankee Stadium.
Yeah.
They ended up canceling the game. The rain delay was like over 2 hours. It's pouring. It didn't let up at all. And it's like, what the fuck are we doing here? Like, why are we
Yeah.
sitting here when we know for a fact that this game is not going to be played? I hate how they deal with rain delays, just from a personal standpoint, because I don't want to be there.
Right.
Especially if like we know the game's not going to be played. Like baseball work days are long as is. Like for instance, I have to be at the stadium at 3:00 today, and the game's at 7. And then if there's a rain delay, we're talking 9-10 plus hours. It's like it's ridiculous.
Yeah, you're doing like film set hours at that point.
It's just absurd. So
the rain delay last night in Atlanta was bad.
That
and
was
they
atrocious.
ended up playing the game. So like it was the rain delay plus finishing that game. It was brutal.
Yeah, I think the game ended at like 12:30 ish.
Yeah,
and
I fell
then
asleep and woke up, and then the game had just started.
Yeah, it's awful. So like then to give people perspective, it's like, okay, so the game ends at 12:30. A reporter's night is kind of just beginning at that point, because then you have to do interviews, then you have to transcribe the audio, then you may have to write a story after that. So those reporters who were at the game last night may not have left until 2:30, 3:00. So it's brutal. Like my night doesn't end when Frank Sinatra starts playing. Like it's kind of just beginning at that point.
Right.
Because like I may have to decide to write something I wasn't planning on writing, or whatever it might be. So the days are long, especially when you're covering baseball. But other than that, like there's really not much you can do unless you have like work to catch up on, or writing a story that you've been sitting on, whatever it might be. Like there's just nothing we can do other than just wait it out.
Yeah.
We don't have access. We don't have access to like a ping pong table, which I would love.
Yeah, but throw that in the press box.
Yeah, I mean, I need to tell Zillow to get us a ping pong table for
Zillow's got to do something for you guys. Chris M, thanks for answering my question. You two do great work. Thank you. Simon Wah, what are the top Yankee fan overreactions that people need to chill out about, i.e. Devin Williams? I would say, i.e. Devin Williams. I would start there.
How about
That's
everything?
A great question. Huh?
I said, how about everything?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just absurd. I mean, I was once a Yankees fan, so I get it. But it's just like now being in this role, it's just, and like having a deeper understanding of how the league works from this side, it's absurd. Like 12 games have been played.
All right. So when you say you have this perspective, now that you're part of the league, like what are some of the differences between you seeing how the sausage is made in the process versus not having that access and being a fan, just so people know that like there's a difference, but like what is the difference?
I mean, you just have a deeper appreciation when you're on this side, understanding just like how long the season is. Like, when you're a fan, you really do live especially if you're a diehard fan, like you do live and die with every game, even if it's April 11th. Like you do, like you're pissed when the Yankees lose, and you're pissed when a player doesn't perform well, and you're overjoyed when something goes right. So like the emotions are just much higher. Like I can't show those emotions in my role now. Um, and it has allowed me to like step back and say like, okay, like only 12 games have been played. Like 7% of the season is done. So you have 93% of the season left. And for instance, with Williams, he's only pitched 4 times this year. I think he's faced like 18 batters, if I'm not mistaken, somewhere around there.
Right.
Um, like he can still finish the year with an ERA under 2, and then nobody else. I mean, nobody's going to remember what happened at the start of the year.
Right.
Now, it hasn't been pretty, obviously, and he certainly needs to improve. And you know, you and I spoke about this yesterday on yesterday's episode. The like none of the metrics are suggesting that something is really off. He's obviously doesn't have his feel for his changeup, which is his number one pitch. And when he does get his changeup, you know, I do believe that he's going to be fine in the long term. But you know, the overreactions, like I get them. I was there, um, but like you just have a deeper appreciation of just like how long the season is. Because I mean, I'm not playing, but I am traveling the country and doing all these things. I'm going to all these games. I have to get to the stadium early, like they do. So like the days are long.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the travel alone. I mean, when I have to travel a lot for work, it's like taxing. So like even the travel aspect of it like has a big impact on how these like seasons go and the ebbs and flows. So I mean, obviously I'm not a professional athlete, but I definitely get and I'm sure other people do when they have to travel a lot for their job. I mean, it's taxing. So there's a lot that goes into it. Graham Highlander. I hope I pronounced your first name correctly. Are the Yankees, in your opinion, going to go after Alcantara? If they do, what would they have to give up?
I would be very surprised if they did, because they just don't have the pieces. And you know, we've spoken about this, but uh, the Yankees farm system's not in the best spot. It's not like it's terrible or anything, but there are so many teams that need starting pitching who just have better prospects available. You know, number one is Baltimore. Baltimore is in really desperate need of starting pitching. Their prospect capital is way better than the Yankees. So, you know, if they wanted to swing a big trade for someone like him, they're very able to do so. And we also saw this past offseason with the Yankees trying to acquire Kyle Tucker, there was definitely some hesitancy in including George Lombard Jr. in a possible deal. And if you're not moving Lombard in a deal for Sandy, you're probably not getting Sandy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That conversation won't go very far. I think at this point, again, it's April 11th, so things can change. We don't know what's going to happen, but I think the type of pitcher that the Yankees can realistically go after would be a Jack Flaherty type from last year. I'm not saying Jack this year, but I'm saying somebody of that tier, that caliber, um, that could probably slot into the mid rotation. I don't know if they're capable of getting the ace. I don't know if they could get it. Dylan Cease, maybe they can because he's closer to being a free agent than Sandy is. But even then, there'd be a lot of suitors, I would assume. San Diego's playing really well, so they're definitely not moving Cease right now. I mean, they're one of the best teams in the league at the moment. We'll see what happens down the road, but um, I don't know. I think in an ideal scenario, they'd be able to get a top of the rotation guy, but I don't see how they can pull that off. I don't even know who would be available, but I would look more at a mid rotation guy more so than um like an ace. I don't know how they would be able to pull that off.
Yeah, I mean, like the also one thing, you know, prospect rankings are one thing, but you know the the Seattle Mariners may look at the Yankees prospects and think, those are the best prospects in
Right.
the country. So like that's one thing like you just never know.
Right.
I
Oh,
think
I say that all the time. I'm like, our evaluations are nothing like the actual evaluations in organizations.
yeah, I mean like the Mariners might look at the Yankees prospects and have them as a top 10 farm system. And then the Rays look at the Yankees prospects and like, yeah, they're probably like bottom five. Like you just never know those things.
Right. Yeah. Our evaluations and the prospect evaluations that are public and all the great publications that are out there, most of the times probably don't match the internal evaluations of many teams. Also, there's owners involved. There are a lot of scouts and, multiple like department heads and department employees that like chime in on this stuff. It's weird. Like, especially when you look at like big time players, like the returns are never that good or never what you would expect. Like, rarely do I think when you have a trade with like big players, do they work out for both sides? I think the Soto deal for the Yankees actually worked out for both sides, but that's like rare. I don't think the Lindor trade between Cleveland and the Mets worked out for Cleveland. Like the Mookie Betts trade didn't work out for Boston, as we have experienced. This is my Alex Verdugo shot for the day, as we
Jesus.
experienced.
The and a good example of this is what happened this past offseason. So the Brewers trade Devin Williams to New York for Nestor and Caleb Durbin. And Durbin wasn't seen as a top prospect, but obviously the Brewers thought differently. They wanted Caleb in that trade. So
Yeah,
you just never know how an organization views a certain player or players.
right.
So that's one thing to keep in mind when it comes to, discussing possibilities of trades.
Like Caleb Durbin is a perfect Brewer type, the way that they profile guys right now. He's like Bryce Terang and all those other like small, fast, super athletic guys. He fits right into that. So it makes sense. Callum Moore, love the podcast from a UK fan. Shout out to the UK. Thanks for listening and supporting. Curious to know if there has been an intentional effort from the organization to soften up a bit in terms of beard policy, trading for Jazz, and supporting his individuality, etc. Just seems like there has been an intentional effort to soften up and modernize a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like I did a big story on Jazz a few weeks ago now, and I spoke with Boone about this, about how it seems like they are softening the stodginess that the Yankees have been known to be, um, and that is something that they are trying to improve behind the scenes. So there has been a concerted effort of just like letting guys be themselves, and it kind of really started. Um, it's probably started before, but like last year was a good example. Like in April, you had your boy Verdugo barking in the dugout, and like they like Boone and like the coaching staff absolutely loved it, and it's just not like Yankee like to like have that kind of silliness in the dugout, but they absolutely loved it. You have Stroman wearing uh, do rags under his hat when it's like, some probably older Yankee fans are going to, roll their eyes at that. So I do think that, you know, it's changed a little bit. Um, and the beard thing was obviously a huge um, point of like the Yankees are trying to, accept individuality and not be so militaristic. And I think it's good. We need that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. From from my experience around some of the past players, they had way more personality than they showed the public, and it was like very intentional to like keep that in house, because they were so focused on winning and titles and blah 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 that they have way more personality than the public realizes and will ever really get to see unless you're around them. And a lot of them like are comedians and funny guys and like see the world in very interesting ways. But also just talking to the PR people throughout the history of the Yankees, like it is very conscious of them to project a certain image. So like, we all kind of miss out on it because that's just like an organizational thing, and I get it too. They are the New York Yankees. They are in New York. There are a lot of like fans that follow the team, and that can obviously take you in a lot of different directions, as we see just with like social media reactions like every 10 seconds. So I do get it, but like I feel like we also miss out. But it's nice to see that there's a guy with strong enough character like a Jazz to just say, this is who I am, take it or leave it. They're supporting me, and now I can like really show who I am. And I think it happens a little bit more. I also think they like this particular team like has a bunch of boring personalities, like just naturally. Like Anthony Volpe, like does not. I'm sure he's different around his boys or whatever, but there's like nothing about Anthony Volpe that I'm like, yo, man, I gotta find out more about this dude, or like, you know, I find him interesting. Like, I don't feel that way about Anthony Volpe, like Paul Goldschmidt. I don't feel that way. You go down the line. It's not a criticism, it's just their personality. So it's nice that they have some balance, that like you have Jazz and then you have Paul Goldschmidt on the other end of the spectrum when it comes to just like perceived personalities, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like I've mentioned this before, but there are a lot of boring people in the Yankees clubhouse.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, it's pretty clear.
yeah, there's a
Makes
lot
your
of
job
boring people.
tougher.
Yeah, it certainly does. So the Jazzes, Verdugo. I really enjoyed covering Verdugo. Like those guys who are like more outspoken and don't have a wall up are certainly huge for a reporter.
Sam Lindauer. What's up, Sam? When do you think it's fair to believe Volpe? Oh, yeah. When do you think it's fair to believe Volpe has taken a step forward on offense? I know he started hot last season, but fell off. Seems like torpedo bat helping him barrel more pitches.
Again, I mean, it's only been 12 games, so certainly need a bigger sample size. I think it's encouraging that he is hitting the ball harder than ever before. Um, it seems like there's certainly been a change with Volpe coming into this year of like not wanting to be a slap hitter like he was last year. Um, it's okay if he strikes out if he has the slugging numbers up, because that's just going to add to his value. So I think so far it's certainly encouraging that he is in the 70th percentile in average exit velocity, 87th percentile in barrel percentage. So all of those things are really encouraging for both for Volpe, but I still need to see more games before we can have some sort of declaration of, this is a new and improved Anthony Volpe.
I will say, while acknowledging that it is a small sample size and there is a long way to go, and yes, Sam's pointed out we've seen this before, and then there's like a tail off. In addition to him hitting the ball harder, his walk rate is up. And I think that that's a positive sign for where we're at right now. And his, hold on, I'm going to check like as I'm saying this because I don't want to get this wrong, but I believe his chase rate is better too. And it definitely is compared to last year. Now, obviously, there's like small sample size here, but I think those two things are very encouraging when you combine that with the increase in improved like contact quality. Like those two things have stood out to me. And I think that even goes to the eye test as well. Like there were stretches, long stretches last year with Anthony where he was just chasing anything that was thrown 50 feet near the plate. Like it didn't matter if it was high, low, if somebody like bowled it to home plate instead of like throwing it, he was going for it. And I don't really remember that many at bats so far where he's made swing decisions like that. So even beyond like the quality, I think he's controlling his at bats better, which to me is a good sign. Now he has to keep it up, but I really don't remember many at bats where he's just swinging at something and you're like, what the hell? What did you see that the rest of us didn't see in this at bat with that pitch? So I think the numbers are bearing that out very early on. But I think even when you just watch the at bats, he's having way better at bats and making better swing decisions. So I think that's encouraging. Now that's another thing we have to like pay attention to see if it'll keep up. But I think if you're looking for ways to or reasons to believe that he's taken the next step, the quality of contact, but also the walk rate and the chase rate, or other things that you can look at as well to demonstrate that he's at least starting to figure some things out and evolve as a hitter.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think he looks better so far. Um, I think we mentioned this yesterday on the episode, but last season at this time, Volpe was hitting like four something, and everybody was freaking out that he was like reaching superstardom. But it was very clear that the numbers suggested that he was due for a major regression. And I mentioned this with Paul Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt has had really good results so far, but he's hitting the ball softer than he was last year when he's coming off of his worst season of his career. His BABIP is like 450 or something like that, which means he's probably getting a little lucky. Um, don't be surprised if Goldschmidt in the near future, trails off. Now it's possible that he can continue this run that he's been on, but his profile doesn't scream to me that he is going to, be an all-star at first base in the American League. So I mean, we'll see. Again, all of this is to say that it's been 12 games.
Yeah. I like the quality of at bats that Goldschmidt is having against righties, but I'm still skeptical about how this is going to play out over a full season. I'm taking it as he's delivering it to us right now, and he's been hitting well and he's doing well, and take whatever you could get, and then hopefully it just sustains itself over the rest of the season. But I'm still skeptical on Goldschmidt. I have to see more, and I think it's totally fair to be skeptical of Volpe until he proves that he has actually taken that step. So I think that's fair on both players.
Let's do one more.
Okay. Let's do two because there's one that's about the podcast, and then so we'll do because Chris has to get out of here. Let's see. How do you think from Chris M? How do you think the Yankees address the bench? Feels like depth hasn't been a strength and no righties to handle left-handed pitching.
Pray.
There you go.
I mean, there's nothing they can do. It's April 11th. At this point, like, they have what they have.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, Giancarlo is going to make a difference when he comes back. I mean, you have LeMahieu coming back at some point. Not to say that that's going to make a difference or anything, but you would have at least a couple of different options that you can go with. So, I mean, there's not really anything they can do at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think they're stuck. I think those rare situations where someone like Edwin or Encarnacion is like randomly available in May or whenever that was when they got him in 19, they would have to get lucky, but I think they're kind of stuck. And the other option, I guess, would be Pereira, but he doesn't play the infield. I mean, if they were really desperate to see if they had a right-handed bat, you could see what Everson Pereira could bring them to be a stopgap. But I think any acquisition of any kind of note, we're just going to have to wait. You're just going to have to, like, grit your teeth and bear it and hope Stan comes back and hope whoever's there can do something. But I think they're kind of stuck for now. Ansel Graham, I might have missed it, but how did you guys get together to create the podcast? I appreciate the realness with which you discussed the team. So, I am very much against like hot take sports media and debate shows. I hate them. I think they're useless. I think they don't serve anyone except for the people making money. It's something that's bothered me for a while. I think social media fandom for a lot of people, I'm not saying the people here or the entire body of fans, is rooted in engagement farming and being like rage baiters and just saying shit to get engagement for, I don't know, attention or trying to get money. And I'm not for that. Like, I don't knock anybody's hustle. If you're making money, then like, I'm certainly not going to pocket watch. That's great. And there's definitely like a segment of fans that love that stuff, which is great. I respect it. I just don't engage in that, and I don't like it. Like, I might have opinions on things, but I'm not taking it to the point where I'm just like saying something outrageous just for you to like pay attention to me. You don't have to pay attention to me. I'll be okay either way. Um, that's how I feel. And sometimes like I'm not even presenting opinions, but like we're in such a space that if you just tell people what happened and like make an observation, people take it as a take, which also annoys me because I don't actually have an opinion. I'm just going off of what happened and what we see. I'm not like adding anything to it. So I wanted to, we had the podcast before when we were doing the blog. We stopped doing it because everybody's life went in different directions. And I reached out to Chris, and Chris was looking to do something as well. And then we just kind of combined forces. So I think that's pretty much how it came to be, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
There,
So
was, there wasn't much back and forth.
no, it was just like, hey man, I'm thinking about doing this. Are you interested? He had to get it clear with the athletic. I obviously don't work for the athletic, so there were things that we had to go through. But yeah, it was pretty. Chris and I were like on the same page, and we're looking to do stuff. So that was how it came together. But it was also like Chris clearly shows it in his writing that he's honest and like this is how he feels and this is how he sees it and that's what he's going to give you and that's how I am as a fan and as a person, I guess, and like a filmmaker. So yeah, and it just I just there's a no use to me of like hot takes because I'm not making any money off of it. So like why am I giving you a hot take? I'm not getting anything out of it other than like a bunch of idiots saying stupid stuff in my social media that like don't understand anything. You know what I mean? So like I actually get grief when I'm not even giving hot takes. So it's like if I actually gave a hot take, it would be more ridiculous. So I don't benefit from it. Chris doesn't benefit from it. I see Chris's mentions and it's like worse than mine. So try to balance it out and like provide something for people that isn't in that arena because there's a lot of it and that's fine. But we just wanted to provide some balance. So
I also think that what makes this podcast different than the other Yankee podcasts is I'm there
right.
at most games. I'm not at 162, but I'm there. I'm talking to people. I have the ability to ask questions. I have the ability to get to know the players. There's not another Yankee podcast out there that has that kind of access. Talking Yanks has Aaron Boone on um, once a week, I believe. I speak with Aaron Boone every day, and a lot of the questions they're asking, we've already asked those questions. So,
And there's nothing against talking Yanks. Like we're
yeah,
not.
I'm not
There's
taking
no
shots.
criticism. Like no. Yeah, it's not a
Yeah, I
criticism.
mean they obviously have a huge audience, but um, you know,
I know people that worked there. Some people that worked on the captain now work at John Boy.
nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like I get to speak with Boone basically every single day. So um, I have access that every other Yankee podcast does not have access to. So if you do subscribe to the Patreon, I do provide insight that um, other Yankee podcasts cannot provide because they're not there.
Yeah. So if anybody is interested in joining the podcast on the Patreon, if you are not if you're not a subscriber right now, I'm going to add the link to the comments just so you have it and you can consider it. It's $5 for the first tier, 10 for the other. We understand what's going on with the world, so we get it. People are doing things with our economy, so I understand. So yeah, we're gonna wrap this up because Chris actually has to go to his job and go to Yankee Stadium and actually talk to Aaron Boone today. So we'll do more of these. If Chris isn't around, I'll do it, and then when Chris can do it, he'll be there. So we'll try to make this like a common thing so we can build up a following and people can look forward to this, kind of like how RAB would do the noontime chats. So we'll do it. We'll do another one next week. I don't know if Chris will be here or not. We'll see how the schedule goes. Yes, Simon, tariffs on the pod. We might have to like add some tariffs to the pod just to make life worse for you. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining us. We appreciate it. We know that there's link suppression out there in the social media space, at least with Twitter. So thank you for finding the link and joining us. We'll make this a regular thing. And if you want to subscribe to the podcast, the link is there. So Thank you, everybody. We're recording again on Monday and then next Thursday. So thank you, everybody, for checking us out. Chris, have a great day at the stadium. Hope you
Appreciate
guys
it.
have a great weekend, and we will talk to you very soon.